The evolution of technology has constantly been impacting the lives of really every being on Earth for centuries. We're reaching a point where tech is shaping every facet of our daily lives, and innovation only helps to induce more ease. The topic has brought about much conversation, discussing what is good for civilization, for humanity. On one end, we may be seeing enhancements in the medical field, in communication, or in transportation, though there are undoubtedly major ecological factors at play, and at an individual level, major psychological concerns for a good portion of society. With Pixar's long-running Toy Story franchise, the upcoming fifth entry is setting out to tackle technology in a big way, as the tablet LilyPad represents a successor to the good old-fashioned toys. And I think we all know how grounded this is. How many times have you seen little kids at restaurants or in stores just blasting the volume on some iPad? It's not even as frowned upon anymore, as we've delved into a much deeper technological state. It appears that we're going to have some other tech-based toys showcased in this film, along with plenty of other pieces of storytelling, and of course that natural Toy Story charm. I am really excited to see what the commentary is on everyday technology like this though, as the series will expectedly offer some nuance on the topic. This is not the first Pixar film, and I'm sure it won't be the last that tackles technology and its development as a major component of the plot. Sure, you can maybe say that The Incredibles did this with Syndrome and his arsenal, or rudimentarily in comparison of Woody to Buzz in the first Toy Story. In reality, the first film that probably comes to mind is WALL-E. WALL-E gets a lot of love and praise, though I do still feel it is unspoken for a lot in the realm of Pixar's growing catalog. Like the upcoming sequel Toy Story 5, WALL-E was directed by longtime Pixar veteran Andrew Stanton, and one of the big aspects of this film that was heavily marketed was that there was this one lunch where some of Pixar's key people had to come up with ideas following Toy Story's success. They came up with A Bug's Life, Monsters Inc., and Finding Nemo, and this new release, WALL-E, was the last of that group. Ironically, factors like technology at the time pushed the release of this back a few years past the rest of those films. And when you look at this selection of some of Pixar's earliest work, you really get a sense of that old view at the studio's films, being what if blank had feelings, which isn't really a thing anymore so much now that humans have taken center stage more and more. In a recent video, I talked about the humanity brought to the Toy Story films through the emotional depth of its lead character, Woody. And though he is a toy, the journey these characters go on is certainly able to resonate with us on a human level. When looking at WALL-E, however, I feel we may be getting the strongest showcase of the human spirit on display. Among the most raved about aspects of this film are the character of WALL-E himself, his relationship with Eve, being that this was Pixar's only film for quite some time to heavily delve into romance as a subgenre. This film was also heavily praised for its opening act, which utilizes very minimal dialogue, just primarily the masterful sound design of the legendary Ben Burtt, and the beautifully eerie soundtrack of Thomas Newman, which captures the dystopian aesthetic perfectly. I've heard quite a few people say that this section is the only good part of the film, and while it does tell a beautiful narrative in its own right, this is just simply untrue. Once we make it into space, it's still a great film, and there's payoff from this first act all throughout. The two vastly different locations work in tandem to represent life in such a unique way. Before we see any of that, however, we get to see WALL-E, this little trash compactor robot. As Pixar's first foray into science fiction, it was super on brand for them to highlight a robot or an android of some sort. Pixar's means of storytelling giving him such a minute and realistically sympathetic occupation really helps to ground his narrative. And again, being science fiction, the whole film surprisingly doesn't feel too exaggerated in content. In fact, as the years have gone by, human civilization has only moved more in the direction in which we are portrayed in this film. As a trash compactor, he is given a wholly unique and incredibly charismatic design, though from the opening we are immediately drawn to this character. His spark of curiosity through the endless supply of the idiomatic one man's trash is endlessly engaging, and when we see him return home, his favorite finds only reveal more to what he has embraced of this culture that came before, and partially of what he wants to become. This aspect of the character is something I've always loved, and while futuristic films in the sci-fi genre are typically hyper-focused on showing civilization advanced to an unrecognizable degree, it's pleasant to see the reverse of this, where yes, technology is vastly improved, though the artifacts from generations before can still be shown as a line of connection to an entirely different being. Hello Dolly serves as the primary guide for our titular robot, as he dances and feels for this moving picture, again despite nothing of the world around him reflecting that kind of society. Just like the trinkets and contraptions he doesn't understand, he still looks to these old ways of living to guide his daily life, and with no other trash compactors around, this material life is all he has. Alongside Hal, his cockroach friend, who's not going anywhere anytime soon. When Eve arrives to Earth, something new is unlocked in his world. He has someone to share those experiences in which he's been longing for. She's had no time to experience anything aside from her protocols, so we are immediately assured of how unique Wally is in this world by the manner Eve treats his findings, though this in no way dissuaded him. While her directive takes her offline, Wally still invites her to see what Earth has to offer, taking her to picturesque settings which are as scenic a planet devoid of life can be, truly embodying the spirit of those humans from long before and mimicking actions which didn't lie within his protocol. Wally's directive takes a big step back here, as it appears he has found a greater purpose, for his understanding of life has greatly shifted, and it takes him bounds beyond where he's traveled before as he launches into space to chase this love. Again, from this point on, I'm aware this film loses some steam to some viewers. They may feel as though the action scenes lack the same depth, but I have to vouch for this film and disagree. We see a flying cruise ship with an endless supply of amenities. This presumably marks one of many starliners in which the entirety of humanity now rests. These cruises as evacuation pods were necessary, being that these conglomerates tore apart the planet, and these marketed retreats are further corporatized as we see tens of thousands of patrons effectively living a 24/7 doom scroll. You may choose to look down on this society as even their captain and effective leader seemingly is incapable of any free thought, though as the film lays out, this is just the world they were predispositioned to growing up in. Both nature and nurture, with many of them not even aware of a supposed home world. We see as babies are grown in this environment, I'm going to assume they're clones of some sort. It's evident that humanity, while not flourishing the most, will still continue to exist for generations to come. And the primary directives of all sorts of robots seems to be to cater to the human experience. This human experience that has been completely altered. And though we see the villainous Otto usurp control of the ship, and not want to see this species return to Earth, we are still seeing them follow through on their protocols. If they desire to keep humans out of harm's way and to be fully coddled, they are achieving such as is. And returning home has a plethora of obstacles that their programming may look to avoid, despite us as viewers understanding it as the natural order. Again, this planet is completely devoid of life, so especially this human condition may not be fit to take on this battle. They still don't let this species die out though, so we are able to read in this film's stance on artificial intelligence, an ever so timely conversation as in intentional programming results in unintentional circumstance that has now continued hundreds of years beyond what was planned. Wally being the only thing remotely aware of the way that life used to be, as well as being the only character with the inherent capability to do more than what he was designed to, has the intrigue and compassion that can change the programming of others. We see it with Eve and some of the other robots that may be labeled as rogue for such a nature, as well as the humans aboard the ship, which have essentially been programmed as consumers. These humans are day to day doing the exact same thing, which, as the captain later states, is nothing, and that's all they're conditioned to do. So when Wally interacts in ways which throw off their schedule or provide some sort of entrancement, these patrons aboard the Axiom are able to regain a sense of their human touch. And while the third act focuses on getting these humans back to Earth in a physical sense, it can also be seen symbolically. We see Wally himself exhibit relentless determination in not only helping humanity going outside of his robot orders, but also personal pursuits for the relationships and bonds he forms, especially with Eve, as these two goals are frequently intertwined. The defined dancing sequence highlights how Wally is comparatively advanced in his understandings, as while the captain is learning about Earth's offerings, these two robots are participating in that same subject matter. Just in a stunning zero-gravity sequence, the scene and the music every time is perfect. And while some of his own robot kind go against him in ideals and a clash in programming ensues, putting everyone on board in jeopardy, Wally still fights for and has the will to persevere to the greatest of lengths. And while naturally exuding a higher level of cognition, he is able to open that world up to those around and sacrificially lead to a new and free plane of existence for everyone, human and robot. While the environmental themes are most visibly on display, which obviously go hand in hand with capitalism and consumerism, and that trickles into all the life we see, I am constantly in awe with how this film takes the relationship of humanity versus technology. Seeing a robot of WALL-E's nature in the protagonist's role is something that speaks greatly to Pixar's strengths. Being human is having a certain biological and chemical makeup. These are just physical attributes that are ingrained in you unconsciously. But to be human as an adjective is the way you act, interact with those around you. It's the compassion you can offer from your experiences or just inherent qualities of nature. WALL-E is undoubtedly human in that regard, and he presents the best of what humanity has to offer, despite hailing from an environment that derived from the worst of our mistakes. While I'm not going to pretend that AI has the capacity to reinvigorate the human spirit in real life, assuming we eventually go down this same road, this film and the character of WALL-E are able to present the optimism that can exist in the most extenuating circumstances, and from the most unlikely of voices. And if you look throughout human history, this isn't too entirely far-fetched of an idea. That about does it for this video. Let me know what you all think. I love WALL-E, it has so many layers and a lot of great messaging. I think this was a fun video and it's about time I covered this movie. I got a comment 2 years ago requesting a WALL-E video, so I hope you're here to see this. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.